So, Scorpio, I just hit the record button. I would like to thank you that you have taken the time to meet me today to discuss a couple of things. I have a couple of things on the list. Those things are, I want to go over your current project. This has been a long time in the making, and I think this continues to develop. So, I would really like to know what's been happening, what's going to be happening, and how people maybe even be able to participate in this project. But I also want to speak a little bit about you. I think you've been around for quite some time. I've gone through your Twitter history. I've gone through, some screenshots and some stories that happened to you. And I want to talk a little bit about those. And then, as usual, just generally about Decentraland, a couple of, maybe a little bit of a history lesson, maybe just a few projections into the future. I think there are a lot of fun facts we can discuss. I think the main goal is really to help other people who will at some point join Decentraland to kind of catch up on what happened before they joined, get to know some of the main characters, and just get a general impression what's expecting them. So, with this long introduction, thank you and welcome to this little show with Swiss.
Yeah, well, Swiss, thank you for having me. I think it's funny that you mentioned, what's going on with the neighborhood, how people can join. I guess I could go over the history of it a little bit, but the story right now with the neighborhood, at least, is that it's pretty quiet. There hasn't been much change, and it's probably a result of my leadership, or let's say lack thereof, because let's be honest, I've been doing my own thing lately. I've been doing other stuff. I've been doing stuff with the casino lately, loosely, with Decentral Games, and I was almost going to do something with the 100X, which is the art district just south of here. But for the most part, I've been neglecting the neighborhood project. So let's just be honest right off the bat. But with that being said as well, when I started the neighborhood project, it was clear that this was a project that was intentionally directionless in a certain way. It was meant to be an organic experiment where we saw what would happen if we just put as many users as possible in a very dense area. So to my discredit, I guess you could say that, I've been a bit lacking in the leadership role. I could have organized more events and I could be planning more events. But, I'm just doing my own thing in Decentraland. I hop around and I get involved in lots of stuff. So there's always the neighborhood to come back to. But it's been pretty quiet lately. And everyone does seem to have their own thing that they're working on. There's lots of notable people in the neighborhood. But again, most of them are working on bigger projects elsewhere. So this is a little bit of a quiet community hub, I guess you could say, for right now.
Scorpio, when I look at the pictures, so quickly say, what is that in the background? We have these cubes in the background with a lot of pictures of different players. Are these all of the members who own a plot of land in this neighborhood, or what does this represent?
Yeah, so what this project is the vision for this project, if we're going to boil it down, I wanted to make some friends in Decentraland. I felt that the land that I did have, I didn't know any of my neighbors. So I hit the Discord and I just tried to round up some people so we could have a coordinated land distribution so that we could all know each other, because that's what I really wanted. And that map of cubes in the background is the end product of that objective. So every single cube you see, that's the exact layout of the neighborhood, and you can see who owns every single plot on that map. So in that sense, it was a success.
So this actually represents the map one-to-one. This is funny. Okay, this is very cool, man. The thing is, I realized that the guys that I see on the pictures, I know some of them. These are, I don't like this expression, but a lot of people use the expression OGs, people who have been around for a long time. How do you define the term OG, man? Do you actually use it? Do you respect it? And what does it mean for you?
Yeah, I guess I respect the term OG. It's nice to be a part of that club in Decentraland. I've been around since the auction, but I was a little late in the Discord. But there's good and bad when it comes to OG. I think that a lot of people in the crypto space get a little bit hung up and they start to equate being there early with having high value, which is not always the case. And I think it's really important for people to constantly be with constantly be active, constantly be contributing in the present, and sort of, not always relying on that OG status or that early that early status.
I mean, this is taking us a little bit off track, but I think that's an important component of this discussion. I mean, we can have a look at the project, but I think the members of the project are almost as important as everything else. Could you possibly quickly run through the individual characters, maybe with a sentence or two of what they're doing and what their names are? Would that be possible?
Yeah, that would be possible because I've talked to each one of the members individually, and a lot of people know these individuals. So let me just turn around and look at the map here. I'm going to start from the top, and I'm going to go down from there.
All right.
So, and I really excuse me if I miss someone here or I stumble, but I think I do know everyone here. So we've got at the very top with the fox mask, that is Red Nitrous, which he's kind of he's like the pro athlete of Decentraland. He's pretty OG, and he's won a lot of crypto playing games and stuff like that. So a lot of you might know him. He's got high scores on MetaZone and things like that. And beside Red Nitrous, you've got low poly models. That's actually KJ's plot. You can see it right over there, that moving platform.
Yeah.
Everyone knows KJ Walker. She's contributed heavily to the models. And I'm going to expand a little bit as well. She actually commissioned these early prototypes, this white building over here. She commissioned those as some building blocks that community members could use to build these sort of layered builds, but that never really came to anything, and that was my fault because I had rushed around the design and I didn't give the community much direction in terms of how to use them or what they should be used for. But continuing on, at the top left there, you see Maddie, DCL blogger. Pretty much everyone knows him.
Who's Maddie? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the first three, I mean, I know definitely the first three already, so I think a lot of people will know them. I mean, KJ is also doing a lot of the new asset packs for Decentraland right now, so I think everyone must be familiar with her. And in the Discord, like when I have the most advanced questions on how to create something inside Blender, she would always be there with an answer when everybody else would be quiet. So I think, and Maddie, I mean, he's all over Twitter every day if you are anyhow in anywhere with, involved with NFTs. So I think until here, this was easy, man. Maddie doesn't even need an introduction, I would say. But I think now you're gonna get into some trouble because the next one is, I have no idea who that could possibly be.
Yeah, so this is one of the people that I know the least as well. His username is Wasabi, and he's one of the, I think he found out about the project through Litecoin Moses, or maybe Litecoin Moses found out about it through him, but he's been one of our quietest members, and I've spoken to him only very briefly. So he might be the character that I know the least in the neighborhood. But he's got a crypto kitty on his plot over there, as you can see. And I should mention, actually, when the neighborhood project launched, one of the requirements was that people needed to build before they were allowed to buy. And so that was sort of a test to make sure that people were, somewhat active, or they weren't just speculating. And Wasabi kind of did the bare minimum over there, but he's here.
I'm just moving the camera over. There is one tiny little crypto cat on the plot, and that's okay. I see.
Okay. So now we're coming to this, and you know what? I'm not going to hide this. This is my favorite member of the community, probably, of the neighborhood project. This is Michael, or Michael. That's the coffee cup plot there. You'll see.
Yes.
With the stairs. To me, Michael is like, he is the most realized version of my vision of the neighborhood. He always checks the messages and updates his plot and tries to participate in the events or things that I'm trying to organize, even though I fall short often and don't make much of these events. Michael's always updating, and I really have enjoyed his participation in the group so far, and he gave me hope in the early days as well.
All right.
And then beside that, we've got Anorak.
Yes, I think a lot of us definitely know Anorak, although he's not as much inside Decentraland as he used to be. We had a little recording the other day with Anorak. I think he has converted into a NFT representative And I think if anyone doesn't know Anurag, go to my YouTube channel, check out our last recording. You will find out all about him. And then to the right, this black design there, who is that?
Okay, so that's Mobius. I think that's Wolfgang or Mozart. I forget which one it is, but there's a gang in the neighborhood. They go by the name Mobius, and they have two plots. And actually, it's a bit confusing because Maddie and Mobius, those are actually switched. They traded at some point. So if you look over at this ghost over here, that's not Maddie's plot, actually. That is now the Mobius plot. So you've got the two Mobius members beside each other.
I definitely recall seeing him at every event, but what I miss here is maybe a Twitter link or something like this, so people can actually connect with some of these guys. I would love.
Yeah, that's a good point. I expect that people. I just thought that there'd be a bit of mystique if we didn't have any links here. It might just be sort of like a symbolic thing.
All right, so we've got Mobius there with the black quadrant, and then moving on, there is Maze of Lee.
So that's Maze of Love. So that is Miss Black.
Yeah,
she is another one of my favorites in the neighborhood because she was so active in the beginning. But unfortunately, she has lost that plot. Those keys are gone, and that plot is forever. The Maze of Love, that will be there forever now because. Miss Black misplaced those keys.
There was this long Twitter story. She published it, and I remember that.
Yeah, I was sad to see her go. I've spoken to her since, and I think that maybe she'll come back someday. But it's tough when you lose all that work,
Okay, all right.
Okay, so beside Miss Black's Maze of Love, we have Doug. You might know. This DSM thing is from way earlier, but he has a thing, I think it's called NFT World, and he has his own Discord. Doug is a very friendly guy. He taught me a few things at the beginning as well, and he actually has NFT vending machines. It's right beside us here.
And he's got this Chrome extension, right? And he's got this site where he has listings from OpenSea. So he's got this little universe of his own inside Decentraland of sorts. Are you familiar? Are you familiar with that Chrome extension that I'm referring to?
I'm not off the top of my head, but I know he's quietly doing like a lot of cool things.
I never met the guy, but this is him. Okay, so I mean, you have the collection of the most. I mean, this is what you call OGs, man. This is a complete different way of describing these people. This is everybody. Like if you go through the Discord and Twitter and just look back in history, these are the names that you will mostly see. It's so interesting that you have them all here. So this is actually quite a high-profile, quote-unquote, location here, man. Very cool.
Yeah, and thank you. And one thing that's really tragic is there's no more room for expansion, at least from me, because I used to own 3 parcels attached to the neighborhood, and I mislisted them, and they were purchased by a bot right away, and I lost a lot of money doing that. So, kind of a tragedy there.
What was this the story where you sold it for 4,000 instead of 40? Is that story?
Yeah.
I've seen it on your Twitter. I actually have it on the screen. I was about to ask you about that. So it sounds like you still feel some pain from that experience, man.
I think the long-term pain is the fact that I'll never be able to expand the neighborhood more so than the money lost. Because it wasn't like when I did this project, I really made any money. Technically, I did make money because I'm taking a little bit of a sidetrack here, but to acquire this particular plot, which I thought was perfect for the neighborhood, I traded with Maddie originally. I had some OG auction land near the museum district. I traded it for this more chunky block that we could all be beside each other. And technically, once the land was distributed, I had effectively liquidated all of my land and turned it into mana. So it benefited me in that way, but I wasn't marking up the land. I was more concerned with making sure we did it right and getting compensated for the value that I thought was worth it in the original trade. Yeah, it does hurt me to know that I had 3 spots that I can't expand on anymore because I made a listing mistake.
Well, there is always the opportunity to teleport. I think this is, if you do this right, it can almost replace an adjacent parcel, right?
Yeah, maybe a sequel to Neighborhood 2.0.
Exactly, man. Maybe it's nice to have a conscious division between the people who really started early, to dissect them slightly, but then offer some kind of way to teleport into the 2.0 version, where people like me maybe could settle. Uh, moving
Yeah,
on.
well, I would have been happy to have you in the OG version, because you've been around for a while as well. Even though I know, but you came in sort of near the Decentraland launch. Is that correct?
I came around end of March, so I think I'm like the not old enough to be OG and not young enough not to be. So I'm somewhere in between.
Okay. Well, I'll move on with the people. So we've got obviously Scorpio. That's me right there. See that? That's my face. The I've kind of used my plot as a way to I combine my plot with this community square in the middle as a way to get more textures and get a higher height limit. So I don't really use my plot. I just keep it quiet in here. But the next one we have is Cryptode. I've spoken to him as well. He played on the neighborhood soccer team during the moonshot competition, because we actually got a team going there. Cryptode is like he's quiet like Doug as well from NFT World, but Cryptode, he works more in the Decentraland names. He's a big kingpin of Decentraland names, I'm pretty sure. Then down here we've got Cryptonaut.
Maybe one thing to add to crypto, because I know this about this guy, that he is the guy behind all the bots that we have on Twitter that kind of auto-publish sales, land sales, and all the open sea sales for Decentraland and other crypto projects. He's got these
Yeah,
bots
yeah.
right? I think it's
Where
I tried to copy this functionality, and then my Twitter accounts got blocked, so he doesn't have any competition anymore. But I mean, this dude has been around. I went back in Discord like 2 years or so, and he has been already active. Like when Matty was wondering if anyone actually is going to join Decentraland, this guy goes way back, right?
Yeah, he's another quiet guy, but yeah, he's all over the place. And he actually gave me permission on his land. So if you look over at his land on the far right, I've actually published my cyberpunk scene for the contest over there, because Crypto has been kind enough to lend that to me.
Hold on, I have this also on the list of my questions, and since you bring it up now, let me ask. The contest was just recently announced, and you are the first one to put in a submission, or one of the first
That's
people.
true.
I think so, because you did it like the day after. Is this your final submission? Do we not need to worry about you and your building skills? Because we are all, like, a lot of people I think are going to participate, and if this is all you can do, we are all really happy.
Yeah, well, the thing about me and Decentraland, and this is partially relates to why I'm not the greatest at organizing these events and being like a ever-present leader, is that I like to jump around. I like to do things based on my mood, and I built my builds have been pretty extravagant, not very complex, but I like big builds, as you might have seen in the past. I thought that I would just do a really understated single parcel classic here, single parcel classic, and if I feel like doing a big one, I might down the line if I'm bored. But for now, I'm pretty happy with the submission.
No relief there. So you got to be the last day submission with the best build. There is that danger. That risk is there. Okay. So we.
Well, maybe you're giving me ideas right now, though.
All right, moving on. I'm sorry. We have to get through the list. This list is actually more massive than we anticipated. We are not even half through.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to give these guys an introduction, but I'll try and speed things up, especially because you're going to know some of these people. But we have Cryptonaut here on the left. Now, he was very active initially, and he was doing some pretty aggressive, complicated builds at first in terms of the programming side. And he had some really big ideas about how we should ensure randomness during the land distribution. Those never came to fruition because they were a bit overly complex, but Cryptonaut was extremely engaged early on, and I always appreciated anyone who was really engaged early on, because this was sort of, we wanted to see if this could work, and the people that were engaged made me feel like it could work. So,
All right.
Okay, then we got Talk Sam right here. This is Polygon Mines. I never know how to say that. But yeah, everyone knows Talk Sam, huge contributor to DCL. Talk Sam was sort of right all along. When I first reached out to him and he came into the group, he said, "This project, I have my worries about it because you're saying in this proposal that like you're not really going to organize anything and projects need direction." And he said all this sort of stuff. And I kind of fought back during the early days and said, well, it doesn't really matter what I say because this is like everyone's going to own their land and they're going to do whatever they want. So this is an experiment. But in the end, he really was right that like because of the lack of organization here, there's not the most going on. But I don't think there's a huge amount of buyer's remorse necessarily because not a single neighborhood plot has sold since it started. So
that would be quite embarrassing to suddenly like sell your plot here behind everybody's back, This is, it feels like the members are almost too high profile and have other locations that are much larger. Like you would actually have to constantly animate those guys on a high level for people to feel engaged. Like if you have new guys who are just starting out, they'll be all excited to be here all the time. But like a guy like Clark Kent, like he's got a gallery somewhere else, he's working on his art project. Like you would have to do something major for him to actually show up here every day, right? I mean, it's tough.
yeah, but even with that being said, now that we're on Clark Kent, the last of we were doing sort of informal, not really events, just calls to action. So you'll see if you look at Clark Kent's right beside us here, it's a Halloween scene, and that was I had made a call for Halloween publications during October, and Clark Kent took the time to put this up, and so as far as engagement goes, Clark Kent's a top tier guy, even with his own stuff going on. So it's funny that you bring up that example.
So this Dark Castle is Clark Kent. Okay, not bad. Huh?
And okay, so beside Clark Kent, we've got Studs Arcade or Studs, who's you might know him. He's been active around MetaZone back in the day, and I don't really know what he's up to now, but he had some big MetaZone arcades popping off at one point.
Okay, I don't know him at all, but I've seen him around for sure.
And then on the right here, we have Litecoin Moses. Have you heard of this guy?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely, yes.
I've made thousands of dollars blindly listening to what he told me to invest in. So thank you, Litecoin Moses. And in the bottom left here, this is a guy who I brought into DCL, and we're actually working on a project together right now that's pretty under wraps. So I'm not even going to talk about it, but just know that something's coming. The collaboration between me and this guy. His name is Avi. He is he's an architect. He just got his master's in architecture. His thesis had to do with virtual reality architecture and why it's necessary, or I don't remember the exact details of the thesis, but it was heavily involved in VR. And he used to actually be an animator. So he's got a lot of skill. He hasn't been super active in Decentraland, but he has a lot of skill. He lives in the city I live in, and I actually met him on Instagram. But I basically traded him a plot in the neighborhood for some animation work and some 3D work. He's a great guy.
Interesting.
So beside him, we have Bunny. That's my girlfriend who I live with. She's not a super active member in Decentraland, but she has her parcel, and she did a submission for the sci-fi contest as well. And she's got a little booth over in her land where you can put your face in it and take a screenshot and look like a rabbit.
Okay.
And then the guy beside her is this guy's name is like Snarky Pete. This is probably him, and Snarky Pete and Wasabi are probably the guys I know the least. So I'll have to get back to you on this guy.
All right.
Beside Snarky Pete, we got two guys who you're going to definitely know. We got Boss from Decentral Games, and we have Frankie beside him.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about for sure. Yeah.
I think Frankie might actually have sold his plot. I might have been wrong about someone not selling because there's a very weird installation over there. But maybe Frankie was just using it for the 100x art display. I actually can't be certain there.
All right, all right. So, so quite interesting selection of people, man. Like, I must say, I'm a little bit speechless. It's going to be hard to go back to the original notes, but I wanted to ask you, like, I mean, the original question was really, what's the point of having a community like this? What's the big upside here? I mean, everyone could have just their own piece of land. Why bother getting together? But now, once you've kind of talked about the people, it feels like the combination of the different elements equals more than what you would anticipate. It feels like there is potential for something, but I cannot quite identify for what. Do you have anything you could say, like, if you would start managing this community, if you would stop getting lazy and invest time and energy and money into this, what could happen next with this project?
Well, I think with answering that question, that's the question I've been trying to answer, I guess, for the whole time I've been the unofficial of this project. And the answer, there's a few things. If I was to have more time, or if I was to make more time to be to learn the SDK more, to be more on top of promoting events and organizing, if I was to put in more work, then I think that we'd have an active space, just like you have in other active spaces in Decentraland, where we're frequently seeing events. And what that would be, you could have people selling their NFTs or promoting their games, promoting promoting various things. If I would just organize things better and work harder. But like I said, Decentraland to me is, I've always been guided by my feelings, and I'm sort of just do whatever I feel at the time. And maybe that makes me a bad leader, but I think when I started this project, I had made it pretty explicit that this was going to be every man for himself in a way, and the vision was experimental. So maybe I'll get around to coming back and really formally organizing some stuff here. But for now, I'm still jumping around with various other projects. But I do want to speak to one thing. I always thought Decentraland was interesting as a new medium. We talk about virtual land and NFTs and all these sort of things that you hear every day. But the thing that I found really interesting was what it meant for proximity. I thought that the value of Decentraland was that the first time there's like a physical distance and a proximity to other people that matters in a virtual space. Because before it didn't really matter. You just have Minecraft servers where you're jumping around and whatever. But now there's like a value to having like actual physical distance and proximity to others. And I wanted to just like maximize that proximity and get everyone in one spot, just to see what would happen. And we're already seeing what will happen. This is what will happen. And if we get a bit more organization, then we could see more people here. We could see builds that are collaborative. But again, we need everyone to participate as well, and that's really a hard part, because we're all around the world. We all have different times. We don't have a big fat stack of cash to work with here to fund our projects. So it's an experiment that's low stakes. I'll say that.
Because one thing I noticed, sometimes you feel like you just want to get inside Decentraland and spend some time, and it's hard to find a location. Sometimes you go to 0 to maybe meet some new people, or you go to the Wonder Zone meteorite mining, because you always know there's at least 1 or 2 people there. But there are just very few locations where you can expect some social activity at any time. And I think, especially during these beginning stages, these kind of accumulations of higher chances of meeting people, they are important, right? But at the same time, you told me I can be honest, and I will be here very honest. It feels like it's just a very diverse museum and a place to experiment and learn to build, but it's not a cohesive experience. There's no concept really here other than it being completely experimentative. And I think it's cool for now, but it deserves, like, if considering the people that you have here, it deserves more attention, and I really hope that you will be able to take the time and to take this to the next level. And if there is going to be a plot available, I will find the overpriced mana to buy it, man.
Yeah, I think you're touching on good points there. Like this space is not being, it's like a museum. It's kind of quiet and it's not being used based on the people that are here. I think I have feelings about this too in terms of Decentraland as a whole. I feel like the developers and the founders of Decentraland have created like a project beyond belief. Like I don't know any project that's done as well as that has like realized a promise as well as the Decentraland project has. And but still, and there's so much to see. You can walk around and you can see so much, but still you question, what am I doing here? There's not a lot of experiences I find, no matter where I go, where I really feel engaged. The only place that I really like to go is the casino, because it functions so well and you're so invested in playing the games and there's so many people there. That's the only place I really like to go into Decentraland, even with this whole community built up, just because I don't know. I just think even with this realized promise, I'm still waiting on an experience that feels really engaging.
Let's talk a little bit about the casino thing. Do you feel comfortable talking about it?
Oh yeah.
Because I've done a live stream from there, and I wanted to experience this. I mean, I think they're doing a great job marketing the events. I mean, I think they're doing probably the best job on Twitter marketing their stuff, so it works. And then I wanted to see, okay, does it live up to the ads? And I think the music, Baus in his strange pimp dress in the center of the room, and everybody dancing, playing games. I mean, they definitely managed to create an atmosphere and to maintain it over 2-3 hours straight. It felt, at least this is it felt like 2-3 hours. Maybe it was only 1 hour. So there's something that works there, and it's more like a party. It's more like a club, and the fact that you're actually playing is just a reason to be there. And but the thing is, what I would like to ask you, there seems to be, I remember this project starting out and there was only Baus, and now there is this whole entourage of people. And could you shed some light into, is this some kind of guild? Is this some kind of business project? Or is everyone invested through their currency and that's why they're there? What's going on in the background? I would love to have an inside view, because from the outside, I do not understand. All of a sudden, a lot of people are part of it. Everyone is wearing the white fur coat, and it's almost like a uniform by now. And can you say anything on that topic at all?
Yeah, I could speak to a little bit. So, I started this interview with the fur coat, but it wasn't looking good against the block. So, that puts me in that little guild that you're talking about. But in terms of people's motivations for being involved in Decentral games and promoting it and whatever, I'm not part of some Illuminati group in the casino, but you might see me doing some of the things you've described, jumping around partying with my DG thing, posting memes, whatever. I think it's Boss has a team of people, and there might, some of them are obviously getting paid by Decentral Games and whatever that company's doing. But in terms of what I'm doing, I just like the community. I think it's a fun community. The people are fun. There's a bit of there's a partying atmosphere. Like the people in the community call themselves Degens, and because they're degenerate gamblers, and it's just a lot of fun to it's fun to do bad shit. It's fun to laugh with the gang. And aside from that, I think people in general, even the people who aren't working for Boss, I think that they really value his consistency and his ability to fulfill promises. Or at least this is just my opinion, because I've been really impressed by what Boss has been doing, and that's my main motivation for being around that Discord and that group of people. And of course, not just people who admire Boss's leadership or what he's doing, but the Central Games has its own coin, and there's people that are huge hodlers of that coin. And so obviously that's just going to accelerate and snowball their participation in that group, and, just have them being involved in the space, tweeting about it, doing whatever to proliferate. Sorry, that's my dog's running around right now. To proliferate the brand so that their bags can get larger.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm almost happy that we are at 45 minutes now, because you're touching on many topics I would love to unpack, but I think some of those topics probably deserve their own recording. I mean, this whole attitude that people bring over from the crypto world into Decentraland, I find this a highly interesting topic, and I'm not sure where I stand on it. If it just feels like a lot of people value everything in crypto, kind of what's going on in the virtual world. I came here for the virtual world, not necessarily. I mean, if this wouldn't have been decentralized, I would probably still be here, So it's but that's a whole different conversation. I would actually like switch gears a little bit so we can wrap this up in time. I don't want to like make this over an hour, because we only schedule for 1 hour here, Scorpio. I want to move over and ask you a couple of questions, maybe more about you. You've mentioned that you have passed a Bitcoin certification on your Twitter.
Yeah. So some people might know this, but I'm starting a Bitcoin ATM business, which is part of the reason why I've sold massive amounts of land. I don't own, I'm not really like a 20 plot estate guy anymore. I wanted to get more liquid. And that's because I'm starting a Bitcoin ATM business. And part of that is just trying to pad my resume. And, when I'm having conversations with people, instead of just saying, yeah, I've been in Decentraland, or I own Bitcoin, I can say I'm a certified Bitcoin professional. And that's just it's an exam you can do online. It's in the global decentralized spirit of Bitcoin. You go onto the site, you do a few steps to register, put in a bit of your information, and the exam, you don't have to like have a monitor. You don't have someone watching on a webcam. It's just that the exam is so fast. It's 20 minutes with 75 questions that you don't really have time to Google the answers. So you kind of have to know about Bitcoin, but it costs $100. You have to pay in Bitcoin, and you just do this quick test, and you'll get certified in like a week.
And Scorpio, I mean, I had no idea about the ATM business you just mentioned, but I think a lot of people come to these metaverses with the idea of maybe finding an opportunity professionally or in their private life that they might have missed on in the past. There are many online trends that people missed, especially guys who are 35, 40. They've come now to this place as well to maybe still catch another train before it's too late. And it feels like crypto has been this vehicle for a lot of people. But now that on top of that crypto stuff, we also have that VR, AR, metaverse. So I think there is a great opportunity for people to still, catch that train and still make it and build something special and extraordinary with their lives. And you seem to have now, you seem to be like a guy who's looking for these opportunities. You try to put people together, you try to put projects together, you abandon projects, you move over to other places, and now apparently you have something new again. Can you share some of your thoughts on how large the opportunity is? How do you find an opportunity if Decentraland is the right place, and what maybe you expect Decentraland to be at the end of its, maybe not at the end, but at maybe 24 months down the line, when we actually start to realize the vision, the original vision, just to cast some kind of larger picture of why we are all like sitting here making these recordings, doing all of that stuff. Why?
Well, I'll probably touch on the last part you said the most, because there was a few questions in there, but I'll probably touch on, what do I see like the extreme version of Decentraland, like when it's, it's logical extension in, 2 years from now or something. That's a question that I think I've thought about recently, at least, and I have, my own reflections on. And it's part of the reason why I haven't left Decentraland, but it's part of the reason why I've moved from land into more liquid options so I can do a Bitcoin ATM business. And that's because I started to realize my initial thinking of what Decentraland would be, I thought it would be like a lot of citizens, a lot of sort of cyberpunks and weirdos, and just a lot of punk attitude. But what I'm finding is that land is extremely expensive. It's really, really expensive. And the best way to, make land actually work and bring in people and have things happening, it all comes back to like just good old fashioned capitalism, promotion, marketing, all that good stuff. Stuff that I don't have a problem with, but it's a bit different than the picture that I imagined when I bought in the auction. I thought I'd be part of like some kind of crazy cyberpunk movement, and it turns out to be sort of a new frontier of good old marketing and capitalism. And so I'm still down. I still love the people here, and I'm excited to see what happens. But I think that even with as successful as it has been, my plans have changed a little bit in that sense. And when it comes to, I'm going to answer one of your other previous questions, I guess, which I think was, how do you find opportunities, or how do you find opportunities in Decentraland? I think that I'm running, in terms of what I could find in Decentraland still, I think for the most part, I'm running out of ideas. I think NFT art is obviously massive right now. If you're willing to do the work and follow the rules and talk to the right people. But that I don't think is for me. And I think that's part of what pushed me out, is I'm not built to do the NFT art thing. But in terms of opportunities, I think it's all about exposure. It's just about like being somewhere long enough and being exposed to something long enough, and being open to seeing new opportunities that, by the time one comes along, it hits you and you don't even really think about it, because you've spent so much time preparing that your intuition sort of, tells you that it's the right opportunity. And that's how I kind of came up with the neighborhood project. And that's how I came up with the stuff that I'm pursuing now.
Very cool, man. So basically, be involved in things and go deep enough for something to pop up, and then you have the decision to make if you want to go deeper or not. But you will kind of feel that now enough stuff has materialized that you can call this an opportunity, and then you decide if you want to invest some money, or if you want to do extra work, or you decide to do something else, which you seem to be doing right now. And I just want to say, for those people who might be completely new, or who may not have even been inside Decentraland, watching all the way to the end, I think the opportunity with metaverses is that some people compare Web 2.0 and then Web 3.0, that this is the next generation of the internet, kind of, where instead of placing a link to your website on your business card in the future, you will place a link to your plot on one of the metaverse projects, where you, instead of seeing a 2D representation of your business, you will have a room of products that you might, get accustomed to before then moving on to a different custom environment. It's like it could become a huge map where you can access all kind of different gaming environments, offices of large enterprises and big brands. It could become like a gateway, and it could be that all of these metaverses will make up one big place you can go to, and it will not necessarily matter if you are in Decentraland, in Sandbox, in Somnium Space, or in Crypto Voxels. It wouldn't necessarily matter. And I think the land issue, the land prices, eventually these universes will expand, and there will be new land made available, and there will be new ways of accessing more space through a parcel. So I think a lot of things that we are worrying about right now and stop seeing the opportunity because we have a certain limitations in terms of what we can imagine is possible, we're going to break those barriers, and you don't have to know how right now. I think it's going to happen in its, when time comes. And Anurag said it in our call that he thinks that now is the time for crypto, then there is going to be a time for NFTs, and then eventually there is going to be a time slot for the metaverses to flourish. So enjoy the ride and wait until the time is right for the metaverses. So this is what I've taken away there. Scorpio, I would like to give you an opportunity to say whatever you would like to say, wish whatever you would like to wish, pass on a message to the next generation potentially watching this and thinking of, should they take the leap or not? Anything that comes to your mind, if there is anything.
Yeah, okay. I'll say that I kind of just want to follow up on some of the stuff that you're saying. I can feel your appreciation for like VR spaces and in augmented spaces and metaverses. And I think part of my mind that's opened up recently is my appreciation for even centralized VR spaces, like you were talking about. You go to someone's, instead of going to someone's website, you go to a room and there's things in that room. I think I would like to probably explore more centralized options in the meantime. And because the decentralized comes with a price, there's things have limitations when they're not centralized, and decentralized is very cool. But I'm definitely interested in exploring the more centralized version. And what I would also like to say, if I'm just going to throw out a message there, I think that the purpose of Decentraland, there's basically two purposes in my opinion. One of them is like, it's the crypto community as a whole has no country. So I like the idea of Decentraland and metaverses in general being the physical space for crypto community, because it's the place where they have bodies and they can see each other and walk around and do things. And I think that's really, really cool. And it's very fitting to the crypto community that such a thing could be decentralized. So I think that's awesome. And I think that I like the idea of people treating Decentraland like a game of conquering and getting as much land as they can, and not just getting as much land, but making an imprint on the culture. And I think I do appreciate what you've contributed to that, because with your DCL Ventures, that round building, I see that everywhere. And I think, oh shit, Swiss, good job, man. Like you're getting your building out there. I always see it. So that's, to me, like that's winning Decentraland, because you're conquering, you're imprinting on the culture, and you're influencing things going forward.
I'm secretly blushing and think this is a great place to stop, Mr. Scorpio. Thank you for sticking with me for almost 1 hour straight. I will place a link to your Twitter in the description so people can follow you, and if they're curious to find out, how you're progressing in the world and also maybe outside of the world. And thank you very much for taking the time. This was one of the most interesting conversations I had on the topics, man. Thanks a lot, Scorpio.
Cool. Thanks, Swiss.